Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Joanna G. Holden. I'm an author, blogger, and vlogger. And today I'm going to be discussing a topic that one of you suggested, and that is characters. How to write unforgettable characters. Now I had originally planned a different video. I was going to be focusing in on different kinds of characters, but after watching a movie that was particularly lackluster a few weeks ago, I decided to just take a whole video and talk about characters in general and how to make them unforgettable. I'm sure you've all seen a movie before or even read a book before where you got to the end, if you made it that far, and you were just like, I really don't care for this story because of the characters, because I did not give a crap about the characters. And if you're anything like me, that thought scares you when coming to writing your own story, because I don't want people to walk away from my book thinking that same thing. So how do these movies and books get it wrong when it comes to characters? By either making us hate them completely or just not care about them enough to even finish watching the movie or reading the book. And then how in turn can we as writers flip the tables on that and make our characters so gripping and so close to our readers that they'll never forget them and they'll keep reading the books over and over again. So for those of you who are interested, the movie I'm talking about was the movie Rampage. I hope I don't get any hate on here for talking about it like this, but as much as I know that I was looking forward to watching it, just because it looked like a fun adventure movie, it wasn't even that. I mean, I was only half an hour into the movie before I was completely disinterested in finishing it. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized it wasn't so much because it was a stereotypical story that didn't actually have much story. It was more because I genuinely did not care for the characters at all. And here's a list of 6 reasons why I did not care about the characters. Number 1 was that all of the characters were cliched. You had the cliched main character, you had the cliched romance, you had the cliched bad guy, and I mean, they didn't even try with the bad guy to make them uncliched. And you know, it wouldn't have been so bad that some of the characters were cliched if not all of them had been cliched. Or if they had tried to maybe take a cliche and spin it around a little and make something more, but they didn't even try that. They just left them as one-dimensional cliches and expected us to like them. Number 2 was that they all acted melodramatic. Now in a movie, this is super easy to see, right? You've got a character in a room with another character and they're having this deep, serious conversation, and then one of them throws a one-liner at the other and then walks out, and you're like, okay. And there was lots of smoldering and there was lots of intensity, and it was just so melodramatic that it was not realistic. Over-the-top reactions, unnecessary intensity, a lot of smoldering going on, a lot of intense gazes going on, a lot of times just using the word intense more than is absolutely necessary. The third thing they did wrong was that the characters really had no purpose in the story beyond their convenience to the storyline. What I mean by this is that every single person in the story, the only reason they were there is because their occupation happened to match a need in the story. So the main guy happened to be a primate specialist who also happened to have been, you know, in the army, who then also happened to have been, and yada 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 yada, and all of these things work together to make him the perfect person for this story. This wouldn't have been so bad, except again, it was not just one character or 2 characters. It was all the characters. There was no character in there who was not occupationally convenient to the story. There was no run-of-the-mill Joe who chose to step in and help out. There was no one who said, wow, this really is not in my line, my comfort zone, but I'm gonna give this a shot anyway. Number 4 was that there were no attempts at all for background except for the 2 main characters, the protagonist and his love interest, and those attempts were so bare bones. I mean, so bare bones. And if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. They were given a basic motivation and then no development around that at all. Like, that was it. Number 5 was no stakes. Like, no personal stakes that a character would have to lose or to gain for what they did. I mean, the city was going to be destroyed, but it looked like that was going to happen anyway. Other than that, there was really no reason for them to be trying to save the city. And last but not least, number 6, there were no arcs at all. None of the characters changed in any way whatsoever from beginning of the story to the end of the story. I mean, come on. I mean, the city has just been destroyed. That's not going to change you in the least. Part of the reason why we fall in love with characters is that we watch them go through a journey. We watch them go from either being in a positive place to being in a negative place, or we watch them mature from being childish to being an adult. We watch them deepen as they go from being relatively superfluous through experiencing trauma and deepening and becoming more spiritually aware, or whatever the case may be. There's always a journey of discovery about who these people are. And there was none of that in this movie, and that's one of the reasons why the characters were so lame, is because they didn't change. Nothing about the story affected them, so why are we telling the story again? And why are they important again? Okay, enough about all of that. We're going to skip ahead now to how to do it right, because that is what we as writers are really focused on, is making certain that our characters are true to life and are meaningful, and most importantly, are unforgettable. So here are the top 4 things that every character must have to be unforgettable. And remember that this will go for protagonists, antagonists, side characters of all kinds. Okay, number 1 is that all characters must create some emotional connection with the audience. This is commonly done through things like fears and dreams, their motives, their flaws and quirks. Basically, it's whatever feelings are evoked from the audience when reading about this character. And usually it's something that's either something the audience can relate to, or it's something that they can aspire to or quickly despise, if you're talking about a villain. Number 2 is that all your characters must have some connection to the setting. The setting, of course, is where your story takes place, and if your setting itself is not important to the story, then that right there is its own issue that you'll want to tackle later. But the truth is, we are all in some way impacted by where we live, where we work, where we hang out with our friends, things like that. Basically, all of us are impacted in some way by where we live. And if your characters are not experiencing that to some degree in your story, then it's going to make it harder to relate to them. Give them something to connect to with the setting, whether it be positive or even better, negative, because that will be an added source of conflict, and all story is conflict. And then suddenly we have a reason to relate to this person. Oh yeah, I hate my house too. Or, oh yeah, I experienced a trauma, and when I drive by it, it bothers me too. It's something that you'll relate with the character, and that makes the character more unforgettable. Number 3 is that all your characters must have multi-dimensional relationships with the plot. That means that they're not just there to serve one purpose only. Guys, this is especially true of your protagonist and your antagonist, okay? The protagonist cannot just be there to save the day or fall in love with the girl or whatever it is that they're doing. They have to have multiple dimensions to their relationship with the plot. This is where subplots come in. When you add multiple levels and layers of stakes and goals and twists and intrigues, suddenly we really care about these characters. And this will include stakes, what they have to lose or gain. This will include arcs, how they are changed over the course of the story. And of course, it will include impact, what the character brings of value or interest to the story. Believe me, if they're not bringing anything to the table, no one is going to care about them. In fact, people will probably start getting annoyed very quickly. And number 4, characters must have multi-dimensional relationships with all the other characters in the story that they know. Think about it. You don't have the exact same relationship with every person that you know. You also don't have the same emotional reaction when that other person walks in the room as you did when that other person walks into the room. We have friends, we have coworkers, we have nemesis, we have family members, and even within each of those categories, we have different relationships with different people. You're going to be at different levels in your relationships, particularly friendships. Some friends will be besties, some will be wannabe besties, some will be just acquaintances. You want to vary the kinds of relationships that your characters have with each other and vary the emotional reactions they get when other people come into the room. So there you have it, my 6 don'ts and my 4 do's of how to create unforgettable characters. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about how to create unforgettable characters, then tune in next week. I'll be going over the questionnaire that I personally use for all of my characters, one that does not include 177 questions on points of character that no one really cares about, such as favorite ice cream or where you got your first dog. If you liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up to support me and my channel, and click the subscribe button on the way out. I post regular videos on Wednesdays and Saturdays every week, both writer life videos and writing advice videos. You can also check me out on social media. All of my links are in the description box below. Are you interested in starting your own writer journey? Hop over to my website at www.joannaholden.com. There you'll be able to find my critique services as well as a weekly blog that posts helpful hints, author interviews, and other fun things for writers. My fairy tale novella Little Hood is still available for purchase on Amazon. You can also get signed copies on my website now. Yay! And to stay updated on my current novel in progress, you can go over to my website and subscribe to my newsletter. It includes a writer's toolbox with recommended resources for aspiring writers, as well as updates on my novel, promotions, release dates, etc., etc. And some fun tidbits on the side because we all need something creative, right? Thank you so much for your support, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!